Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life is Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Commode. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the Temple Beth El and the Beth El Cemetery, located in Springfield and West Springfield. So tell us about the Temple Beth El, which is located in Springfield.
This synagogue was started in 1913, and they didn't have a building yet. Like most Jewish synagogues in Springfield, they started in the North End, and they would end up moving, and they moved soon thereafter, and then they built a place that they could have a religious ceremony. In 1918, they built at 154th Fort Pleasant Avenue, right? And they were so enthusiastic about it, they also built a school right nearby for themselves. And so they had a school and a synagogue going. Now we're going to talk about its features, but also its history, and also its cemetery that has in West Springfield, and what's inside of that cemetery. So the Temple Beth El, once they had their own building going in 1918, they prospered even more. And by 1953, they had moved out to the eastern part of Forest Park neighborhood on a street called Dickinson Street. And there they built themselves a new temple. And that temple lasted only 15 years when a fire destroyed everything. And they had to redo everything and build a new temple. In 1968, they did so, and that temple is still out there. It's with a classroom section towards the back and a temple area towards the front. And there's still a very active synagogue. The Springfield Jewish Social Center is very close by. They've also been joined by another synagogue, so that's a good sign that they're going to prosper. Now, the school that they had going, that didn't last as long, but for a positive reason. So when they went to Fort Pleasant Avenue and had a small school there, in 1937, only 19 years later, the United Hebrew School came into existence, still in the Forest Park neighborhood, but this time in Oakland Street. And that lasted for a very long time. So they joined forces and had many synagogues around Springfield join in to have a large school going for themselves.
And what is the history of this temple?
Okay, the history has been such that they've had to move around in the very beginning. And they explain their history at their link for their page. And that's good. And it's also explained well off-site too. So they had a very, very simple beginning. It was the first conservative synagogue in Western Massachusetts. And they thought about getting together in 1912 and did so in 1913 with his first board and so forth. And then they got a rabbi, and there was no synagogue yet, but that rabbi who came in stayed with the congregation for 33 years. It was Rabbi Price for 33 years. And then after he retired, he stayed with them. So for 50 years, he was essentially either a rabbi or a retired rabbi called Rabbi Emeritus. All right, so they had to move around the North End quite a bit into different places, like an auditorium, a storefront, right? And finally, they started getting money together and they were able to build up their place in the Forest Park neighborhood in Fort Pleasant Avenue. Right, and there, like I said, they got their teacher to do the teaching, and they got money to build up their place on Fort Pleasant Avenue. But they wanted to keep growing and growing, and they did so. And what happened was that they ended up getting their temple out on Dickinson Avenue.
And quickly, before we continue with our interview, just to fill our listeners in, for more information or to sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214 and his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, tell us about the Beth L. Cemetery in West Springfield.
All right, the Beth L. Cemetery, which is associated with, or is part of the Temple Beth El, it's all in West Springfield because the land was cheaper and they were able to buy it from another Jewish synagogue. And they have the largest portion of those 4 Jewish cemeteries that are in a row and are all abutting each other. And they've also been able to build it up, not only acquiring more land, but also getting a new entrance exit on a back road to make it safer for themselves. Now, one feature I won't talk about just yet, but they also, the sisterhood within the Temple Bethel was able to get enough money going to build a chapel within the cemetery itself. So it's a really cool place to go out there and visit this set of 4 cemeteries. And it's for only the congregation itself, but since this probably was the most successful Jewish congregation and temple in Springfield, they were able to grow to such great size that they had to acquire a couple more parcels of land out there, and even one that was in the way back, probably it had to acquire from St. Thomas Cemetery.
And what are some of the features of this cemetery?
Okay, one very interesting feature is that they have a chapel within the cemetery. And this they allow to be used by all the 4 cemeteries that are in West Springfield that are Jewish. And it's probably not used anymore. I saw a few holes in the windows boarded up. They probably don't use it anymore. But it was built in 1927, and for a long time, I guess, it must have been strongly used by the congregation and the other 3 congregations. And it looks quite nice still. It has a nice copper roof to it. It has a nice architectural design. And it fits in very well with the whole look of what they're trying to do out there.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And of course, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And check out a large selection of our other podcasts at his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new podcasts and videos posted daily. Thank you, and hope you join us again.